Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Ask an AppSec Engineer. This week's question comes from a commenter from my top certificates for application security engineers video. They ask, if you were to start your career as an AppSec engineer or an application security engineer today, how would you begin? And again, remember, if you have a question about application security, feel free to leave the comment in the videos below or join my Discord and ask questions there. The invite link is in the description below. This was a really good question because it's been a long time since I ever just got into the cybersecurity space. For those who don't know, I've been in cybersecurity for about 12 to 13 years. I've been an AppSec engineer for about 6 years of those 13 years. So if I had to start all over again and I wanted to become an AppSec engineer knowing what I know now, my route would be dependent upon my background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on 4 backgrounds and the path I would take for each and every one of those. So the 4 backgrounds are basically: 1, if I had no technical background whatsoever; 2, if I was a software engineer or developer; 3, if I was already a cybersecurity professional; and 4, if I was a student in college. Now, before I even hop into the different paths, let's just go ahead and explore what does an AppSec engineer do. I've actually already answered this question in depth in another video, and you can check that link out here. But I'll give you a quick overview of what I even said in that video. So an AppSec engineer focuses on securing software applications throughout the software development lifecycle. This includes identifying and mitigating vulnerabilities, implementing best practices, and basically just ensuring compliance with security standards. And some of those activities you may be involved in as an AppSec engineer are threat modeling, code reviews, pen testing, tool implementation, developer support, incident response, and compliance. So now that we know what an AppSec engineer does, let's talk about the paths. Path number 1, I have no technical background whatsoever. Now, let's just say I'm coming from an entirely different field. I'm transitioning over from another career. I'm going to just be very straight up with you and let you know, like, there's a high probability that you may have the most difficulty transitioning over to this particular area of cybersecurity, or just, I guess, pretty much tech as a whole. Only because there are so many prerequisites to even getting to this point. So much knowledge that just needs to be filled in, and it will not be quick, nor will it be easy. Just be ready to dedicate at minimum 8 months to a year to even backfill all the information that you do not have. And those 8 months are really just to get the fundamentals. There's no real boot camp either. Just throw it out there. Like, there's no boot camp for AppSec engineers. You can join a couple of websites and kind of get you familiar with it. I think one of the websites that's most focused on it is AppSecEngineer.com. I have no affiliation with them, but I did meet some of the team before at, I think, a DEF CON years back, and I did review some of their information probably like 2-3 years ago, and they are 100% dedicated to training up AppSec engineers. So that's a good starting place. If you have no technical knowledge whatsoever, it might be a little difficult. But I would just check them out just to see, because they may have added some modules to their program. But again, there are no shortcuts to this. So the first thing I would do is I would start to understand, at minimum, the software development lifecycle, which would more than likely move me into the pathway of finding a language, maybe starting with a front-end language like JavaScript. And I'm not going to dive into HTML or CSS, no, because you need something that's like interactive. And JavaScript is it's the most used front-end language out there. So I would kind of get my feet wet with understanding JavaScript, and then I dive into maybe something like Python or Node.js for my back-end work. And you can start anywhere you want, but again, these are just some easier languages. There's other languages you can do like Java, C#, and all that for the back-end work, but Python and Node.js are very simplistic in a sense. at least in my opinion. So I'd familiarize myself with the software development lifecycle. I'd get involved with a language. I'd start to familiarize myself with what tech stacks are and what tech stack I may want to get into. There's OWASP top 10 that I would have to start learning. And like I said, that these are really, this is really just the fundamentals. Like these are topics that you'll have to hit. I know I'm throwing it out there all almost in a like overwhelming not even a roundabout way, but almost out of order. But it kind of just depends on you how you learn. But in my fundamentals piece, like I would learn the software development lifecycle, OWASP top 10, what else? Tech stacks. I would get myself familiar with a language, two languages, a front end and a back end language, or one that I can use for front end and back end. And I believe we can do that with Node.js and JavaScript. So yeah, I'd familiarize myself with that. And that by itself would probably get me through understanding at minimum, maybe just code reviews itself. And that's like 1 out of the 7 areas I've already mentioned. So that's already a lot of work. So like I said, I would be prepared to really dedicate a year to just getting the fundamentals straight. So after I just understand programming to a sense, then I would pretty much get into pen testing piece. And that would lead me to try Hack Me. Now, I know a lot of people, myself included, would probably say Hack the Box is better, which, you know, like I said, I would say it was better. But I believe that Try Hack Me is more beginner friendly. Like if you don't know anything, I mean, nothing, Try Hack Me will help you from the ground up. I feel like even if you go into Hack the Box, Hack the Box Academy, that's still just a lot of information. And I don't feel like it's as beginner. I feel like the beginner that they're looking at is still like, I know a little bit about tech. I probably was a student at some point in time, or I'm very like, well, I guess a little bit dispersed away from tech for a while and I'm trying to get back to it. Or I've dabbled in some things. Like that's how I feel not Try Hack Me, that Hack the Box is. Try Hack Me is just like, this is a computer, you know, like that's how I feel with Try Hack Me. So I would dive into Try Hack Me for the pen testing piece. And they pretty much, like I said, break everything down like you're a child. Also, I don't have any sponsorship with them, so this is not a biased opinion, at least for a monetary perspective. But Try Hack Me will get you through a lot of pen testing pieces. Now, if you find that you've gotten some fundamentals with that and you feel comfortable with Try Hack Me, then I would migrate over to Hack the Box. And I would do that because Hack the Box is one of those platforms that really lets you start to critically think on your own. Like Try Hack Me gives you the pieces, like it feeds you the pieces. But Hack the Box just gives you like a breadcrumb. Like literally just, oh, you need help? Here's a tip that may or may not help you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how Hack the Box works, in my opinion. So for other people, they may think differently. If you do, comment below, let me know. But that's how I feel about Hack the Box. I love Hack the Box, but I also have a tech background. So if you don't have a tech background, I think Try Hack Me will work out for you. Now, just having the programming aspect and the pen testing and the OWASP top 10 and merging that together, like that should get you through an interview process, right? So again, you've dedicated what I think average boot camp is like 6 months, right? So for coding, so it's like 6 months. So if you spent 6 months understanding a programming language, and then the next 3 months dedicated to, well, the next 5 months dedicated to, pen testing and understanding top 10 OWASP, and then the months after that, like 2-3 months, really trying to put that together, or even taking that 5 months to merge that together, then you'd be ready for an interview. And that's pretty much how I would do it. I would dedicate all my time to trying to figure out, okay, well, let me figure out what I'm trying to break first. Some people would just dive into the pen testing piece and you have no experience whatsoever, you don't even understand what you're breaking, and that to me is just backwards. So I would understand the coding aspect of it first, know what I'm trying to break, and then learn how to break it after that. You also need to know so much more as far as working with the developers and stuff like that. We haven't even touched any of those other areas. Those are really just the first two. And when you get through, like I said, when you have that interview, teams are more than likely at this point in time in 2024, and this is towards the end of it, like they're looking for pen testers. Some are now just starting to look for code reviewers. So you'll be doing a lot of testing, and that's really what you need. You just need a lot of testing under your belt. The rest will come later with time and job experience. And honestly, I wouldn't do too much at that point. Like, I would just start training on the job and start understanding like sprint cycles and everything with the developers and all that. So you'll just have to learn the rest. But if you understand programming and then get into the pen testing piece, that should pretty much help you. But again, that will more than likely take you a year. Now, that was path one. Now let's transition into path two, which in my opinion is the easiest path in all the four paths. Like, it is the easiest path. And that is you transitioning from a software developer or engineer. So if I were a software developer or engineer and I wanted to get into application security, I would just straight up jump into filling in the security piece. Like, I already know the software development lifecycle. Let's just say I have like 5 years experience. Even if I had 3 years experience, I'm coding every day. I'm on a team every day. Like, and if I've been actively a part of that team, I would understand the sprint cycles. I'd be familiar with the tech stacks, the code reviews. I could provide developer support. So that's already 3-4 domains. I just need the security piece of it. I need the testing. So I would start where the person without any technical background would pretty much leave off. I'd get into OWASP top 10 and understand compliance standards and guidance, such as like PCI compliance, understand what PII data is, understand threats and vulnerabilities. Like, dive into probably getting a certificate like Security Plus. I think that will help just to get your feet wet in security, and then go a step further and like really focus on the application security. So like OWASP top 10, like I said, I would even start looking at the case certifications. And I've actually talked about that in another video. You can go check that out in my channel. But that helps you get into studying and understand what you'll start to get into. And then I just start getting on some platforms to understand the testing piece, right? So like I said, I already have the development piece. I just need to understand how to test what I built. And so I know I said go with Try Hack Me or Hack the Box for the other, for path number one. But for this path, I will honestly start with Portswigger's Web Academy. And I will tell you why. It's because it throws me into a website and it lets me use a tool already. So if you're a developer, you're more than likely already familiar with developer tools. You've already dealt with looking at requests and responses, looking at the requests and responses at some point. You're kind of familiar with some type of proxy tools, maybe not necessarily, but you've dealt with what's in the browser, like the developer tools within the browser. All you're doing is taking that and using like a tool that's dedicated to looking at requests and responses, which is Burp Suite. And Web Academy pretty much like kills 3 birds with 1 stone. First, you get the pen testing tool, you get the pen testing piece, you get to understand and go through the modules for OWASP top 10. And I'm not even listing this out, but like, so I might go over 3, but you have the OWASP top 10. You actually get hands-on experience with OWASP top 10 with going through each and every website. So now you get to actually see what security is talking about when they're saying, oh, well, this is not security. Oh, this is SQL injection. This is what it looks like. How do you exploit it? Like, you start to exploit the things that you've at some point in time in your career built, and they walk you through each and every module. And they even have they even have videos and step-by-step direction as to what you should do to get to this point. So I mean it's just like the bee's knees. And then you have a pen testing tool on top of that. I could imagine that it wouldn't even take you, it would probably take you like 6 months, give or take. And as I'm like, just to get through Web Academy itself, because I think Web Academy is, at one point in time, it took 6 to 7 months. Who knows how many modules they put in since the last time I've seen it, which was like a year ago. I know they came out with API testing and server-side request testing, server-side request forgery testing, just a lot of stuff. So I think now it's probably at 6 to 7 months. So it might take you 6 to 7 months to get through all that. And it starts you at the beginner. That's the other thing I like about it. And again, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I've actually used Web Academy and I like it. So that's why I'm talking about it. So they start you out at the very beginner piece and they start working you through the same concept, but getting more technical. And I think that is really good. Like, it starts giving you a concept and then it digs into that concept a little deeper until you start to really start being able to think on your own. And then you can probably move on to hack the box and stuff. So again, I think Web Academy is good if you already have that software developer background. Not that it's very specific to that. I'm just saying, like, I think it'll be good versus somebody who has no technical background whatsoever. There's a lot of things you have to backfill with that. So, but anyway, going back, while I'm working through Web Academy, I'll read up on compliance standards to help with the remediation efforts for my industry. In addition to that, I would start looking at static code analysis tools and really dive into the compliance piece. Because let's be honest, like, if you're a developer, you have a lot of tools already in your IDE that, you know, either QA is making you do or security is making you use. You just probably don't have you don't have time dedicated to really go through. You've just probably been given some instructions and then you work through it. Most people, there might be some unicorns out there, but most developers, they were mandated to install, I don't know, Sneak or Contrast or what is Sonar Cube to their plugins. To the list of plugins on their IDE, and then they read back, scan locally, and then probably go back to a dashboard of some sort, depending on if they have the enterprise level of the free version. But in any case, like, you've probably gotten a decent idea of it, but now you just need to go in and like backfill all the information that you probably weren't thinking about before and put that all together. You already have the tools. You're just piecing everything together, which is why I said, like, this is one of the easiest transitions. So yeah, I'd start diving into the tools piece, starting with Burp Suite, go through Web Academy. I'd start looking at some of the tools I already have installed for static code analysis and OWASP Top 10 as per usual. Compliance pieces, I would just start to really read up on some of the tools I'm already using. And once I'm familiar with the compliance and pen testing in these tools, the next step after that is just I'll make my way into threat modeling. And mind you, this is like 6 to 8 months later, right? So at minimum, I feel like somebody who's already an AppSec engineer, they can kind of just dive into this already with way more information, way more knowledge, and they would pretty much just backfill some of the things that they were already given, but really go in depth in it. So I think it'll take 6 months to get through Web Academy and then put all the pieces together. And then once you get all that, threat modeling. Even though this would come with time, probably a year and a half, I think that this can be done with comfort and ease, mainly because you're already in the meetings. Threat modeling happens when you're trying to brainstorm and put pieces together, like architectures getting together, like everybody's trying to understand, like, what are the requirements needed, like your requirements gathering. Threat modeling happens during that time because you start thinking about the attack surfaces or that come with creating this new feature or this new product. And if you have pen testing, if you've gone through the web application, the Web Security Academy, if you understand OWASP Top 10, if you understand the compliance pieces that you need to have, like PCI, PII, PHI, all that stuff, like, now you're sitting in the room with this knowledge on top of your software development knowledge, and you're listening to the requirements gathering piece, and you're saying, oh, well, have y'all thought about using this version of TLS, or have you thought about using, this setup as far as the architecture goes? Like, you can start to really add to that. And I think that will put you at a year. You'll be able to do all that. Incident response and tool implementation, I mean, that will probably come with time. You've probably been a part of some incident responses, but just on the apps, well, the developer side, you probably have never really been a part of it. You probably just got the call and was like, oh, okay, well, let's talk through XYZ. But now you know why, tool implementation for DevSecOps or DevOps. I mean, that's just coming with the CI/CD pipeline, right? And that comes with familiarity with the tool itself. I think if you're a software engineer, that would you'll have an easier time with that than a software developer, because they have not necessarily. I mean, they're hardcore programmers, right? From my understanding, software engineers kind of also work on the architecture piece, whereas developers do not. But correct me if I'm wrong. Comment below and let me know. But from the software engineers that I've talked to, that's like their defining moment right there. So, I mean, you're looking at maybe like after 2 years or so, depending on how invested and how much of a go-getter you are, you could potentially be at a senior position. Like that's how I think. If I had like 3 years experience, 3 to 5 years experience as an engineer or a developer, and then I wanted to segue into AppSec, that is exactly what I would do. I would go into the Web Security Academy, start getting myself familiar with BERP, OWASP Top 10, and reading up on the security suggestions for your programming language, and I've talked about that in another video. Understanding the security features of the language that you're using, that's helpful as well. Get some certifications, Security Plus, the case certifications, especially if you're a Java or C# programmer, then I would absolutely go, or .NET framework, I would absolutely go into the case certifications. And even if I wasn't, like, I won't say code is code, but it's kind of like, code is code, man. I'd go back and I'd read through it and just try to get through it the best I can. But to me, that is the most easiest transition out of all of them. So that's path 2. The next path is, let's say I'm already a cybersecurity professional, but I'm just like from another track. So if I'm already in cybersecurity, I have that security piece under my belt already. And I just need to, again, backfill what's specific to AppSec. So for example, let's say if I were in compliance, I would need to still know the software development lifecycle and pen testing. If I was a pen tester, I would need to understand, again, the software development lifecycle process and maybe more compliant. If I were incident response, then I would probably need to do SDLC process or software development lifecycle process and testing. So depending and that might also depend on if I have been a part of any purple team engagement. I may not need to fill this in as much. And because you have a technical background, like I said, you can choose whatever you want, honestly. Try Hack Me, web security, hack the box, it doesn't really matter. The sky's the limit almost in that aspect. I'd also get familiar with the programming language. Because I mean, honestly, you have the security piece. So to some degree, even if you are in whatever area of security you're in, you still have like 2. You still know about compliance and you still know about incident response. In some degree, you do have some knowledge on pen testing. The difference is application of said testing. So you'll have to work on that. You may not necessarily know a programming language, so you might have backfilled those. So these are really the 2 things that that's like a consistent thing across all these paths. If you don't know code and you don't know how to test, then you need to do that at bare minimum to get into this field. Hands down. Like that's what I would do. The rest of it, like I said, will come with time. If you're in, I guess, some vulnerability assessment or something, because that's actually where I came from, vulnerability assessments. I ran scans on servers, prioritize them, and then move into the pen testing piece. I was a pen tester for a while, and then that's what segued me into AppSec. Like I was actually a pen tester for web applications, so they trained me up, and then I just went into that piece. If you are in cybersecurity, like you've more than likely worked with management, you've worked with the business. Now all you have to do is kind of flip that and start working with developers. So you have something that you can work with, right? You've probably ran some reports, you've probably generated some type of prioritization of, not generated, but you've probably come up with some type of prioritization depending on what a certain threat was. You understand the impact that it has on the business. You understand risk assessment, stuff like that. So you just need to transition your audience from probably upper management or other tech professionals, such as like other security professionals, not tech, but other security professionals or infrastructure, and then segue it into the developers piece. So yeah, like that's what I would do if I was in cybersecurity. Second easiest kind of thing to me, honestly, it's just the same thing, just different audience almost. The very last but not least path, if I were a student in college, and let's say I'm a computer science major, because I actually have a master's in computer science. I actually have a business degree in like management information systems with a minor in computer science for my bachelor, and then I have a master's degree in computer science with a concentration in cybersecurity. So this person is pretty much unique, right? So what makes this person unique, more unique than the others, is that they have something that all the other teams just don't have unless they are unemployed. Like if you are just unemployed and you're looking to get into AppSec, you have time. Like you have so much time. And I'm not saying that you don't have anything to do with your life, but you actually have time. Like you can manage your schedule better than somebody who has to dedicate all their time, all 8 hours of their working day to a job, and then have to segue over and find time to study, to do something else. Like as a student, you have the time. Like you do not necessarily have to make a lot of time unless you're that person that's working a bunch of jobs and all that, or just overloading yourself with a bunch of classes. So you're in a unique position, and a student, regardless of the year they're in, freshman, senior, and in a betweener, they have the time. So I would take this time to learn pen testing and intern. And if I intern, I would either intern as a software engineer or a pen tester. I actually did intern when I was in my master's program. I interned, but not as a software engineer, as a vulnerability assessor. I had the opportunity to do pen testing, and I was just a fool to not do it. I probably would have saved myself so much time had I just went the pen testing route. But my friend was, I knew somebody who was doing a vulnerability assessment, and I just wanted to work with her. So what a fool! Don't choose your friends, choose your future. But in any case, like I would either intern as a software engineer or a pen tester. And it really doesn't matter in my book at this point in time. However, if I could go back and do it, I would go choose software engineering internship. And I actually did a software engineering internship, now that I think about it. So I did both. I did like a summer internship as a software engineer, but I wasn't on a team. It was just me. So I worked at a government laboratory. And I don't think I got the same. I didn't get the same experience as others who worked, at an e-commerce business site, or maybe at like a McKesson or something. Like I worked more at a research lab, and contractors came in asking for contractors to do something for them. So I didn't necessarily have like sprint cycles and stuff like that. We did have like Scrum and Agile, like the Agile methodology piece going, but it was very different. But if I did do that again, I would 100% choose software engineering internship. And here's why: because it gives you more of an insider. Remember, I told you the software engineering and developer piece, in my opinion, is the easiest transition. It's even easier than if you had to me, and I'm a purist with cybersecurity, meaning like my entire career was just centered around cybersecurity, vuln assessments and AppSec. Like that's all I've done. The software engineering and developer piece would pretty much just help you understand sprint cycles, what's important to the business, the culture, how the product team works. Just, I already said sprint cycles. What's important to the developer? Like, it will really get you into the mind of the developer, which, as somebody who was a purist of cybersecurity, just coming in and saying, oh, I need to test this and test that. Like, you're going in with a different mindset than somebody who is a developer and bringing in security into their realm. You're trying to throw security in a realm that you aren't necessarily in. So it's like me coming to, I don't know, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. I don't know, like, in a sense, and expecting it to work out all the time. And that's exactly how I could imagine it. Not that it'll get violent like that. It's just, it's so different that it makes people just look at you like, really, that's what you came here with? Like, you didn't want to come with something else. Um, it puts you into the mindset of being the software engineer. And basically, it's easier to backfill cybersecurity than it would be to backfill engineering. Like, cybersecurity, I feel like it would probably take you maybe 4 to 6 months to kind of really get into. Honestly, if you did the bug bounty program for Hack the Box and backfill with that, I mean, that what the certificate for Hack the Box bug bounty, those modules, they said it takes 18 days. Now, to get the certificate may take longer than that, but, like, the Security Plus, like, I feel like cybersecurity is like one of those, cherry on top, so the whipped cream on the top of the cake. But, like, if you had a strong foundation in something else and you added the cybersecurity piece on top of it, like, that makes you pretty good in any industry. So I would, if I would do it again, I would do software development. And you already have 3 to 4 areas already that we talked about, as far as, like, the developer support, the code reviews, um, the SDLC process, like, all that. You'll just have it, and the rest would just be on the job experience, which a lot of people get anyway. As long as you can speak to it and you have a unique perspective in which you can speak to pen testing, right? I would also do bug bounties. Like, you have time. Like, bug bounties, people talk about, oh, you can make $200,000 doing bug bounties. Yeah, but how long did it take you to get $200,000? How long did it take you to get $1,000,000 in bug bounty? Like, how long? It probably took a lot of those people like 5, 6 years, right? So you have time to go in, do trial and error, uh, play around with some stuff within scope, within reason. You can create reports that way. You can go on. You just play on different platforms. I mean, the sky is really the limit, especially 13 years after I've done it. I didn't have all these opportunities that are out there now. So, I mean, wouldn't it be a time? Like, this is exactly what I would do. So yeah, working on report writing and all that, and you can get on projects with software engineering. If you wanted to intern as well, like, if you didn't get an internship or you was in a part of your semester that was really difficult for you to get an internship, you can hop on projects. You can hop on open projects and just be a part of the software development piece, freelance with people. Go to your local, I don't know, local shop and start playing around with stuff, like, within reason and with permission. But, just set up websites for people. You can, like, there's so many opportunities for you to just become a software developer or software engineer and play around with that. You can build a sandbox and do the same thing. Like, you can do so much. And you can do this with any other path as well. But again, the sky is really the limit if you have time, which most students have. So those are really my thoughts. Remember, there won't be any shortcut to this. At minimum, even if you're a software developer or a software engineer, I said 6 months, 6 to 8 months to start with. So everybody else that's not a software developer, I would probably develop even like 8 months minimum to get one area down anyway. Excuse me. I think the student time has, they'll probably have the least amount of time too, but I feel like that's also unrealistic to the rest of the world because there's the time factor, right? You have time, you could go do your homework and then boom, just spend the rest of your days in your dorm room just and looking like Batman. I don't know. But yeah, everybody else, I would say it would take you about roughly 8 months minimum to get in this area, and you just need to dedicate your time to really looking at code, getting yourself familiar with code or understanding code, and then understanding testing code. And then from there, start working on interviews. Start asking questions, that's another thing I didn't say. Start looking up questions for job interviews. Another thing I would do, which is what I'm starting to do now, is get my GitHub together. Sometimes I pull down, and this is for anybody, right? So this is just general catch-all, and these are my final thoughts, right? And things that I've actually done to help keep myself abreast of things. It's just pull down code from GitHub, go through that code I'm familiar with, so and programming languages I'm familiar with. I go to conferences, a lot of conferences, and I go to like the AppSec Village and DEF CON. I network with people, but again, like I can network with people, I can go to conferences, but if I'm not in a position where I am job ready, what's the point? At that point, I'm just hoping that somebody would give me a chance as opposed to actually making myself of use and value. But yeah, these things I would do. I'd build my own, if I was a software developer. And honestly, I'm not a software developer. I would create an application. I'm doing that actually in real time. Like I'm doing that now. I actually created a property management software using ChatGPT solely. Like I want to see whether or not my hypothesis is, with all the information that ChatGPT has, do I have to prompt it to actually incorporate best secure programming practices, or will it just generate it? And if it doesn't, like I'll go back and test it, right? So that's an entire project that I'm doing, and it's like threefold. And I'm going to throw that up on GitHub at some point in time. I might actually make it public while it's still in the ugly stage. And then I'll clean it up and use it for myself. But yeah, like these are some of the things I'm actually doing in real time, and looking on other websites that really look at code reviews, because that's actually something I'm really interested in, is the code review aspect, writing proof of concepts for code reviews, and not just relying heavily on tools. I'm starting to look at creating tools, and that's just where I am in my field. So if you're not that far advanced, I would just play it safe and not really take too much to heart that people are like moving ahead. Because if you have no technical background whatsoever, you need to backfill. If you're a software engineer, you need to understand the security space, but bit by bit. If you're in cybersecurity, but you have no understanding of software engineering, well, that's a whole nother. You have icing, but you have no cake. You know, like you have icing, but you have no cake. So you need to have some cross functionality with yourself and really start to build a foundation, a strong foundation in development, so that you become like that total package in a sense. And then if you're a student, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. It's really whatever you make it. And you can essentially create an entirely new path for you because you're growing up in this field, so to speak. Or you can take the paths that are already laid out for you. Me, I'm starting to incorporate artificial intelligence into application security and how I can best use that and create tools and such. So while also strengthening my full stack capabilities. So full stack engineer capabilities. So that's it that I have. Thank you for the question. I really hope this video gave you what you needed. Remember, if you have any questions, comment below, and I will get back to them in the next upcoming video. Click to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be alerted the next time I do answer those questions. And I will see you in the next video.